Sure. Did you get a notification that it started recording? Okay, here we go.
Yes.
All right, so we just got the recording on, so we'll get started. First, I just want to welcome you to Feel the Heal with Daisy, my first podcast collaboration. So I wanted to invite you onto this podcast with me. And I was just talking to you about this, kind of giving you the rundown, but really I see you out here. I'm like this fan on the sidelines. I was actually telling my friend the other day about you, and I was like, I feel like you're like the guy version of me because because I see you out here and you're like breaking all of these. Well, maybe not for you, but for me, I'm like, wow, he's really dismantling all of these limiting beliefs that I had. And just I'm witnessing, and you're kind of an example of how you can really pursue all passions and really not limit yourself and get into that mindset of like, I have to be successful in this way to really pursue certain things, or you're just starting where you're at and you're honoring what interests you. And we're both, have a background in recovery and being sober. And from my experience, I feel like when that first year of sobriety I get into, and I just want to live like a normal human being. Like I want to be mediocre. Like I want to live how everyone else is living and be self-sustainable. But then after a couple years in doing that, you start to realize, in the 12-step program, it talks about living by rigorous honesty. And so what I learned is you have to start living in this radical truth with yourself. And that's going to look a lot different than the mainstream or what society tells us is successful or normal. And so my first question to you is, at what point in your recovery did a shift happen, or did you start to realize, wow, like there's more things I need to be exploring about myself or about how I want to live my life? When did that start to show up for you?
That's a really good question. So for me, it's actually interesting. It's coming up, going to be 3 years since I started my journey of fitness and kind of working on getting physically healthy, taking care of my body and stuff like that. And when I first got into recovery, I thought recovery was just drugs and gambling and cigarettes and this and that. And this whole new shift happened when I started focusing on losing weight. It was September 1st, 2019, I think. Jessica was pregnant with Juniper. We went down to Florida. I had these moments, and you stay in recovery long enough, you continue to work on our journey, and we start to change our lifestyle a little bit. And you start getting these signs from whatever you want to call it, the universe, a higher power, whatever. And it'll start telling you what you need to fix. It'll start giving you these little nudges and hints on what you got to change about yourself. And my weight just started becoming an issue. I found myself unable to like I had to take a deep breath before I would bend over to tie my shoe. And I found myself breathing heavily. Even though I'm not smoking cigarettes, I'm not doing drugs, I'm not engaging in any of those behaviors, I started to see that maybe like my weight could be a problem. And that was when I started noticing these signs. My eating was crazy. People were saying it. And when I started to I decided to lose weight. I was in Florida walking along the beach with a friend of mine who's in great shape, and I embraced this new journey. I remember thinking to myself how I went into quitting cigarettes and drugs kicking and screaming. I didn't want to really quit. I just had to do the work. And I was thinking to myself, what's going to happen? What am I going to be 300 pounds and my daughter's going to want to play with me and I'm going to be stuck on the couch? You know what I mean? My kid's just going to be tugging on my hand and I have overeaten, so I don't want to get up and go play outside and go rollerblade and have fun with her on the playground. I was like, no, man, like food can take me away from those moments the same as cigarettes can, just stepping outside, the same that, you know, drugs can if I'm just in a state of intoxication and she's pulling at my hand and I can't get out of it. And that was not a place that I wanted to be. I didn't want my eating habits to take me to that place. And so began this really rigorous journey, but I was excited about it because it was really good for me. But I just knew that losing weight was going to be crazy. And once I started losing weight, all these new freedoms started coming. You know, it was like, wow, I can rollerblade. I can go running, dude. Like I can, you know, I can cook. Now I start to cook. I start to, you know, learn all these interesting things about how food and diet affects addiction. And it just opened up a whole new door for me. And to me, that was when I saw the biggest shift in my recovery. So yeah, that's probably the answer to that.
That is, I mean, I thought I had you on here for one reason that was aligned with like really what my overall message with Feel to Heal is, but you know, what I hear you saying, because I think it's important too to mention, you know, there's so much around in the health and fitness industry that comes that appears, it's not even that this is the energy behind it or the intention, but that appears to be this surface level mission. But what I'm hearing from you is that, and this is what I constantly am preaching to people, and I feel like people eventually get here in their recovery, is like the psychic change that we go through in the first couple years, it changes. And it even talks about it in our big book, Literature, that God consciousness becomes a working part of the mind. But then we reach a point in our recovery in some capacity, whether it's trauma in the body or what you're saying, like you were seeing that there were these blocks in you physically. And so God conscious, like the body awakens and we feel our healing quite literally in the body, in and through us. And then God, because you kept saying signs. So I'm curious to even dive into that more, because it sounds like after you had this awakening through your body and through how you were connecting with your body, it wasn't even about, I didn't hear you once mention like the appearance aspect of it. It was all about the connection you were having or lack of connection to self because of how you were treating your body or how you were relating to your body. And so that started to shift for you. And within that, this awakening happened and this God consciousness came about through your body and started opening you up to even more, like you said, freedoms, more awareness of how you wanted to intuitively be led through your life. So what, like you said, there were signs, and you, like you said, you started rollerblading, do all these things. Like what else came out of that deep connection that you started to cultivate through your body?
So once I lost my initial weight, I remember, okay, so I do like a 90 and 90 with fitness. And I say, I don't care what I do. I'm doing 3 miles a day. I don't care if I'm walking, crawling, rolling, skipping. I'm doing 3 miles a day. And at the beginning of my journey, I had so much heavy weight up front that my back hurted. You know, you start to experience these things that you didn't anticipate to experience when you're on your journey, you know? So I started to see my back started hurting. So I just every morning would wake up, slam pre-workout, and be like, well, now I got to go to the gym. So I would go to the gym and so at this time that I'm doing this transition, I'm in Florida. I decide to lose weight. the company I was working for moved me from one position to another. The new position I'm on gave me the freedom to exercise. I didn't have to be on site. I was able to move around and it was business development, so I could work my own schedule kind of. So I incorporated exercise into my schedule. 3 months later, after, losing, I think I lost like 30 pounds or something crazy, some crazy amount of weight. And then I got laid off at that job. So 3 months later, I got laid off. I had a baby on the way. I'm in this state where I don't really know many people, you know what I mean? And I don't know. I kind of just started applying it to every area of my life, and I said, I kind of like time just became such a factor. You know what I mean? Time became finite in this span. It was like, okay, there is not an infinite amount of time. Time is actually finite. And if I'm not using it efficiently and effectively, my life can become unmanageable in multiple areas of life. So this balancing thing is not a 3-man band. It's more of like a symphony orchestra. And I got to start conducting it the way that I want. And when I got laid off, they gave me a severance pay. And I said, okay, well, now I got 30 days to figure out what I want to do. You know what I mean? So what am I going to do? So I said, you know what? Just be out of the house from 9 to 5. I left when the person who laid me off, which happened to be a close friend of mine. It's just crazy how business gets in the way. And you work in recovery. That's what people say, but it's really just addiction treatment, and morals and principles go out the window. And it's difficult for somebody to stick to their, the values that they hold, but whatever. Anyways, I say, I'm going to, I look at him and I say, so I don't work here anymore? And he's like, no, I'm sorry. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I have a fucking baby on the way, dude. Like, what's my kid gonna be brought into this world with like a deadbeat dad, who fucking, is this where my journey kind of takes me, And I kind of like said, well, what do I want my character to do? Like, if I was an outside viewer of my life, what would this person do right now? There's moments in people's life where their character either, falls to life and the story's tragic, or you see people in those movies and TV shows where they fucking go accomplish whatever they want to do. So I said, all right, I'm out. I walked out, thanked everybody for allowing me to be there, and it was a great journey and opportunity. And I just went and just drove to different treatment facilities and was like, hey, I really could use a job. And they didn't really have positions. And on my way out, I was always like, but I'm a great group facilitator, dude. I'm the best group facilitator you can possibly get. And one of those places called me the next day, so I went and did that. And I was like, whoa, what if I just did this? What if I just did groups? I just educated people and did therapy. And then I went around and did that. And at this time that I got laid off, I had just acted in a TV show pilot. So it's like all these weird, once I started working out, I got into this TV show pilot. And I'm like, just from me putting in the effort, the things just happen. And it was just this weird moment of me saying, I'm just going to do the work and see what happens. I'm just going to go put myself there. I'm going to go shake the hands. I'm going to go do it. And if something comes of it, then cool. If nothing comes of it, then I'm just going to be in the same position I am now. So that was kind of when I started really just trying anything, doing anything, and kind of just figuring out what do I, if I'm in this position, like, what do I want to do? I went and tried out to be a police officer. I went and took the fucking, dude, I went and took like the what's it called, test, the physical test or whatever. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to fucking do this. You know what I mean? But I fucking did it anyways. And I went there and I did a great job and they would have hired me. But I was just like, I don't want to do this. It was almost like another freedom of doing whatever I wanted to do. So it was just, and that freedom keeps on opening itself up to me, I feel. So
I'm curious then, like because I love, like I do life coaching, I do group facilitation. I'm very much like I really interconnect all of the modalities. And so I love, I love that you had this really somatic experience, like through the body. It really awoken and tapped you into like new sources of inspiration and power. And then all of a sudden, the kind of like the internal transformation that you went through, it started to be matched by your external reality. Like basically, a lot of times when we go through a radical transformation internally and spiritually, externally things start to look like they're collapsing, because what we were like, whatever terms you want to use, but like whatever frequency we were in, like whatever level of consciousness we were in, we've now evolved out of it. And so a lot of times our minds want to see proof of that first. And what happens is it doesn't happen that way. Usually it's like we have to get embodied as this like new version of ourselves first. And then all of a sudden our external reality is going to start to match that. And it's going to start to, the things that we are now resonating with are going to start to make their way to us. But first it's going to look like things are going like up in flames, which it sounds like is what happened to you. You're like, wait, no, like I'm welcoming a baby. I just did all this transformation inside. Wait, what do you mean I'm losing my job? But I'm curious, like you kind of were like tossing out a lot of things. So it almost seems like there was like some sort of pendulum going of like, okay, my mind's going to what's familiar and predictable, of like, okay, like this is logical. I'm going to go and try out to be a police officer because that's predictable. That's a good source of income. I know I'll feel in control almost if that works. Or let me go back to treatment centers and see like how, but really then the pendulum kept swinging and was kind of saying, no, like we're guiding you to these places because we want you to actually tap into something bigger. Like we want you to really believe in yourself and to believe in your own vision. So it kind of unfolded as you were taking action. But when did you actually say, okay, I'm going to start Attainable Dreams? And like, where did that like sprout in all of this?
So when they paid me, so I go around the same, I get let go, and one of the facilities that I went to calls me the next day, and I'm on the toilet at like 5 a.m, and I get the phone call. I get like a text message that's like, hey, can you come run groups for us today? And I'm looking at my phone like, dude, what's the worst that happens? I got this money from my severance, and then it's like, what, I make a little bit more money? Because any money I make right now is extra money that's going to be there when I run out, so not a bad idea to go make some fucking coin. So I said, yeah, hell yeah, I'll be up there and I'll come run group for you, So I go up there, I run group. They asked me what I charge. I just said, this is what I charge. And they cut me a check. And I was like, all right. And I'm holding the check and I'm like, bro, what if I just fucking did this? What if I just went around and did groups, So then I went from there to another facility where I knew people. And I went, and they knew that I ran groups really well. So I went in there, told them this is what I do. They booked me, and I gave them like a super cheap rate. I'm like, bro, I just need to make enough to feed my freaking family and do something. So 2 of those places, you know, booked me, and I stayed with them for like really, really long times. And that was when I came up with the idea. It was first called the Most Fire Groups. So I went around and I was like, I'm the most fire groups. That's what I am. I'm the best. They're the most fire, dude. And everybody was like, I started going into business meetings and, you know, people were just like, dude, you can't call yourself the most fire groups, Jimmy. And I'm just like, all right. So I sat down, came up with a couple names, and it was like the therapeutic group experience, you know, just a whole bunch of names. And I had Attainable Dreams was one of the names I came up with. And that was when I think I made business cards and then flyers and stuff like that. And then when I went in for a business meeting, somebody was like, are you LLC'd or whatever? And I was like, no. So I kept on, every single time I would go into a meeting and I would fail. Like literally, there would be some barrier that I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. You don't get the education. You don't have the LLC. You don't have this. You don't have that. And instead of being like, dude, fuck you, bro, I would have to literally like accept my defect of character. I have to literally accept my shortcomings, and I have to look at these people, take their suggestions, and then go do it. And that was like how I just continued to grow in the company, and one step at a time, I just kept on doing things, you know?
Well, it's interesting because like because I went through a whole certification program, and that one of the things it teaches us is it's like once you're on, and you know, just the different people I follow and books I read, it all talks about like once you're in your life's purpose, like once you've actually stepped foot down that path, there's never failure. It's only feedback. Like the momentum is created. Like you are on your like dharma, your life purpose. And so you're only getting feedback. So like, it's just interesting hearing you actually sharing your story, because I'm hearing like, oh, wow, like you just kept putting your foot forward, and then you get feedback of how to elevate your business. And then all of a sudden you would do that, and then you'd step into the next meeting. And it's like all the while, like, again, like our cognitive minds, our Western mentality is like, I'm failing, I'm not good enough, less than, I don't know if I should be doing this. But then really when you're stepping it forward, what's happening is like you're being molded and you're being shaped into your own little niche. And so as far as like the group facilitating goes, what do you do in the groups? Do you have a specific, like, what's the fire? Like, what do you go in there and do? And how did you kind of, is that just like another one of those like ever expanding journeys that you're on? Are you still doing it? And like, how did you get the confidence to just say like, you know, I am a group facilitator. Like, did you have the experience from when you were working in treatment, or how did that unfold?
So my background is education. So I was a teacher, addicted to drugs, up in Massachusetts.
Wow.
And I was homeless, and I was like teaching kids and doing all this jazz, and doing stand-up comedy too, you know. I just always had a knack for public speaking. I literally never got anything less than an A when I had to do a presentation. I just rocked presentations. That's just like the thing that I did. So when I got sober and I went to rehab, I was just like, you guys are horrible teachers. You're not teaching me. You know, I'm not like learning education about drugs. I'm not learning, you know, much about addiction, recovery, anything like that. So they said, oh, do you think you can do better? And I was like, yeah, I do. So I ran a group in rehab, and it was pretty good, even though I didn't know anything. And when I started working in treatment, they always just kept on telling me to run groups. And from there, I worked in a detox as like a group facilitator. Well, I worked a bunch of places and I just always ran groups. And then, word got around that Jimi ran really good groups. And it was just, for me, it wasn't, dude, I remember like running like some of those early groups. And for me, it was just, I'm on this journey with you, dude. You know what I mean? That was the thing. Like, bro, I'm trying to figure this out too. If you guys have answers, I might need it. So we all need to figure this out. And can you guys help me? And when you're like that, people are just like, dude, how do you like, what do you need help with? And I'm like, well, I want to know, like, was your life unmanageable? Like, was your family? And then you just start asking them the questions. And when you kind of like approaching it from a perspective of there is no right or wrong answer. We know the only wrong answer is getting high. So we're already in this situation as it is. We might as well talk about it. And I think what makes the groups fun is I don't want to sit in a room with a bunch of people and have it be boring. So as a comedian, I like to laugh. I like to have fun. I like to make jokes. And, as a artist, I would like to creative or whatever you want to call it. I enjoy just doing fun things. And I think that what should be happening in groups is people should be discovering new ways to recover rather than like, I don't know. That's it. Just like discovering. That's a place to try and fail, So I guess what makes them fun is what makes them the way they are is that they're fun. And I don't sit down either. I stand up. They're more like educational too. So we have a topic we're talking about. We're going to define what that is. So there's no like, well, I feel this way about it and he feels no. Look, this is what it is. Okay. And we're going to talk about that, and then identifying that kind of like in our life and, preventing the bad stuff and progressing towards the good stuff. And how do we do that? So that's kind of like the breakdown that I do it. And I'm always moving. Like as a teacher, I like to stand. That's just what it is. You know what I mean? So I'm standing, I'm in front of the whiteboard, I'm writing things down, I'm sharing my own experience, strength and hope. We use analogies and it's just and then when I do activities, that's when it's super fun. That's when we do like really cool stuff. Like I'll bring my microphone in and we'll make music. So I come in and I'm like, all right, we're making a song right now. I download a beat. They all go up there, rap their verse, and then by the time I leave, it's on YouTube and they can listen to it. So they love that. All types of stuff like that. So
do you do like the same groups every week, or are you just kind of like you do packages and you go in and do workshops, or like how does that go?
So when I first started, I was doing random. I didn't know what to do, and the more I got into it, the more I started developing a curriculum. And depending on the level of care that I go is depending on the content and the curriculum. So Detox has a turnaround. Their average length of stay is about 14 days. So I try to have a month worth of curriculum. And that rotates so that they're never getting the same thing twice. And the same thing goes for PHP and IOP. Like those are 60 to 90 days. So you're looking at a 12-week program, 16-week program when you throw in all the different activities throughout and stuff like that. So yeah, so that's the way and as far as I'm working on a workbook right now. And once my workbook's done, I'll have a little bit more tangible, you know what I mean? So, but Yeah, so that's probably going to be the next move. Have like a workbook and a big like a legitimate program type thing.
Wow, that's really cool. So how did it's interesting that have a background in teaching, and yet you didn't, when you were at that crossroads, you didn't say, oh, I'm going to go and try to get a teaching job.
That's right. Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Is it just because you were answering the call to like step into the unknown, or?
Yeah, I didn't want to teach. I remember like being a junior in college and raising my hand and being like, what if I don't want to do this, dude? And everybody's like, what do you mean? You're a junior. And I'm like, I don't want to be a teacher. I don't want to work with kids. I don't want to fucking go to school every day. I'm trying to get out of school. And so from that point forward, they were kind of like, you can do lots of stuff with your teaching degree. And I was like, dude, yeah, like what? So I guess from that point to the point where I discovered I could maybe use this to run groups and, do it in this direction. Between that time, I think I was always just looking for something else to do with my degree that would be relative. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's interesting too, because I think about it, because I feel like a lot of our limitations come from like identifying too much, or feeling like we're not, like it almost prevents us from identifying as something that we're meant to step into, that's going to expand us. But we say, well, oh, I can't do that because, like, for me, what used to come up for me a lot is like, oh, I'm not a licensed therapist, so who am I to teach about trauma? Who am I to talk about? And yet I have all of these certifications, all of this knowledge, all of this profound experience, but then that would kind of constrict me a little bit. Or it's like, we identify like, well, I'm a teacher, so I have to do this with my teaching. Or so, like, how did you navigate that a little bit?
I would declare myself unqualified. So usually I'll just say, dude, I'm not qualified to do this, so don't get mad at me if you feel some type of way. You know what I mean? Like, I'd be like, bro, I am a teacher. I am a comedian. You know what I mean? I'm not really a therapist. So I would kind of like just give the disclaimer, and people would look at me and say like, dude, I don't see you as that. I see you as a therapist. You know what I mean? They'd be like, so it goes back to what you were saying. It's kind of like my external aligning with what I believe I am, and
Mm.
the more times that happened, the more I had to say, bro, if I don't get rid of this belief that I'm not good enough, I'm not deserving in this and that, then I fucking won't be, and those people won't start believing that I am worthy of treating their trauma or their addiction, when maybe I'm the person they've been looking for. You know what I mean? And our paths crossed for a reason, and I'm just shutting that down because I'm not grateful for the blessings that my higher power has given me. And it's not easy, dude. It's not fucking easy to like just come to believe that. Like, that's a fucking scary journey in itself. Like, now I have to go out on and with that comes failure. You know what I mean? Like, with that comes like me not thinking I'm fucking good enough. And the moment's gonna come where I'm not gonna think I'm good enough. And in order for me to change, I'm gonna have to fucking be courageous and be good enough and do it. And if I don't do it, then it's not gonna happen. So that's like literally it's how do I get over that is as a result of continuously putting myself in a place where like I'll get qualified. I'll become qualified real quick if I keep on doing this, So
Well, it reminds me of two things. Well, it's Brene Brown or someone or something like that just talks about how like we're never really afraid of like our shadow or our darkness. We're not really afraid of that. We're afraid of our light. Like we're afraid of our true potential and power. And it's like we end up becoming something that society tells us it's okay to be. But then when we're faced with what we really want to embody and be, that's when we're like, wait, am I allowed to do this? Like, and then one thing that comes up for me a lot is the saying, God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. And so as we're called to do these things, we're called to do these things. And it's almost this like undeniable pull, like you're saying, like you could have ended up becoming a police officer. You could have ended up going back to a teaching job because that's what is predictable. It's what society tells you you're going to provide for your family. It's what you're, as you know, a male in the Western patriarchal society, like this is what you should be doing. And yet you were just being pulled. And all the while, God is saying, I'm going to qualify you for this. Like I'm qualifying you in these failures to embody like how you're really meant to serve, all the while bringing you abundance. And so it's cool to see that. So such a positive note to kind of start to wrap it up on. But what if there's anything else that's come up for you or that you want to share, any other like deeper message that you want to put out there along the lines of everything we've talked about? What would you want to say?
Manage your time. You know, when I first started Attainable Dreams, I was working, you know, I couldn't pay the bills off running groups. So I took like a BHT job and I'm working 7 days a week, doubles on the weekend. You know, Jessica's home with a newborn. It was crazy. I missed Jessica. Jessica was home all day with the newborn on Mother's Day. And I wasn't there to like be with her for her like first Mother's Day. And I just remember missing that and thinking to myself, like, dude, here I am fucking, like, what am I doing, bro? You know what I mean? I'm passing out meds for somebody else, you know what I mean? Like, what the fuck is this, dude? You know? And I was like, my kid, dude, like, Juniper's only gonna be one once, dude. Once. She's never gonna be one again. And if I'm working 7 days a week, then I'm never gonna see her, dude. And I said, if I take one fucking day off, say I dedicate Sunday, you know what I mean? I was like, what would happen if I take off my Sundays and I don't work Sundays? And I remember thinking to myself, I'm not going to have enough money. My bills are going to pile up and this and that. And I was like, and then like my recovery kicked in. And I said, but that's like my purpose, yo. You know what I mean? Like my purpose is to be at home. So if God's will is for me to be with my family, then he will provide for me if I dedicate my time to his will. So I did the math and I'm like, bro, if I just take my Sundays off, like I only say, yo, Sunday's family day, no matter what, then that's 52 days of seeing my daughter be one. And that's not enough. I want to see my daughter be one forever. You know what I mean? I want to see her as like 365 24/7 be 1 year old, you know, and I want to be able to provide so that Jessica can do the same and we can celebrate together and get to see each other every single day. And I don't have to get dragged away by this slave that money can make me, you know. And, that was a huge moment for me of sacrificing my Sunday. You know what I mean? Just my Sunday. And I haven't worked a Sunday since. And now I'm just going to, like, I just continue to try to work harder so that I can be there for my family because, you know, the last thing I want to do is look back on my life with regret. You know, this is where my fitness journey brought me to, because I remember thinking to myself, right now, I can lose this weight, bro. I can get healthy. Like, I can sacrifice my Sundays. I can be there with my daughter. I don't need to look at my phone or social media. I don't need to be gorged down in a plate or outside smoking a cigarette. Like, I can fucking, like, I can be here today. And it's, that time just, I really, I don't want to look back on regret. And if I don't take advantage of it today, that door is going to close and it's going to become a cage. And I'm going to have to live with that reality for the rest of my life. And that's not what I want. If I have the opportunity now and I don't take advantage of it, what am I going to be, fucking 75 looking back on Juniper being one and working the whole time? I'm gonna look back on having the opportunity to lose weight and just fucking saying I'll do it tomorrow or this and that, and then die of a heart attack. You see people nowadays dying of heart attacks from all types of crazy stuff, or having strokes and half their body doesn't work. You know, I want my marginal decade, I want my last decade of life to be getting up off the ground and up and down with my grandchildren. You know what I mean? I want it to be with not having to go to fucking work some job, and I wanted to just be there so I can be there for my family and all that stuff. So time, bro, you don't get it back either. You know, it's like, so you need to literally choose what you do with it, you know, and you want to have fun with your time. You don't want to be like a slave to it, you know. So I rollerblade. Me and Juniper go have fun and play around. It's not like this daunting journey of life. And people get afraid of that and they run away from it. You know what I mean? They fail to set that boundary. And when they fail to set that boundary in any relationship, problems occur. And the last thing I wanted to do was not be able to set that boundary with money, dude. You know, like, so yeah, that would be it. Just take advantage of your time, because my kid wants me. My kid doesn't want a fucking playground, doesn't want McDonald's, dude, doesn't want, you know, a college degree. My kid wants me, and my kid wants me now, and my kid wants me today. And if I can make that happen, and what? If I got to sacrifice money, dude, like, I would rather look back on my life saying, you know what, dude, I could have made more money, but I was there with my family, and that's what matters more to me. So that's,
Wow. That in closing, it's like you really, it's kind of like what I started with, as far as challenging and dismantling the conditioning that society and culture puts on us, of how it defines success and abundance. And you literally, like, you might have used the words, I sacrifice money on Sundays, but you're sacrificing, or you're redefining what is abundance to me. And abundance is, I have money in the bank, I'm doing what I love, I'm providing support to recovering addicts, and I have an abundant life at home with my family, and I have quality time, and I'm cultivating memories. And I love that, what you said about, and just in that, like, you're so abundant in all of that, you're having fun, you're joyful, you're out, you're treating your body well, because you said, no, like, success isn't sitting behind a desk or in an office all day. I'm going to have abundance in every area of my life, and that's what success is. And it might have been uncomfortable at first, and it might have felt like sacrifice, because you were sacrificing what you were deeply conditioned to believe is what success was. And then, you know, all the while now you're living in such abundance with all of this quality time and with your family. And I just love what you said, like, especially as someone who works with trauma and with addicts, behind every addict is trauma. It's like, where does all our childhood trauma come from? It comes from us missing those moments with our parents. We're missing that support and that nurturement and that intentional connection that we needed as young kids. And so it's like, you're you're not just healing and helping people heal in treatment, but you're literally creating a new way for the next generation, and like setting that example, which I think is huge. I mean, so big. I feel like a lot of men, specifically men, of course women too, but I see that in the recovery field, a lot of men struggle with, you know, their self-worth and identity is wrapped around their job and their money and how much they make. And
it's like, dude, you know, I remember one time, like those dinners, bro. Everybody wants to go out to dinner. Everybody wants to go to the fucking dinner and eat the big steak while somebody else is fucking bathing your kid. Somebody else is reading your kid fucking bedtime stories, dude. And maybe that's your fucking significant other and you should be next to him fucking doing it. You know what I mean? And like, I find that my relationships can become unmanageable if I can't balance fucking steak dinners. You know what I mean? If I can't balance like work and all of that, it can mess things up. I was on a business one time. I went out to a dinner meeting and this guy was traveling. He's like the owner of a bunch of treatment centers, and he's traveling, and we go out to dinner, and he's FaceTiming on his phone, like with his kids while they're being given a bath. And I was just thinking, like, that was another moment for me. Like, I fucking remember, like, watching him have that experience with his kids, you know? And he was doing the best he could. Props to him for FaceTiming. Some people don't even FaceTime. You know what I'm saying? So for him to FaceTime and make the jokes, like, that's amazing. But I was like, dude, is that gonna be me one day? You know, like, we just sat down with a business dinner talking to me about opportunities. I don't want an opportunity if that's what it's gonna mean. You know, and I already missed dinner with my family tonight, and I don't like fucking missing dinner. You know, I like fucking being there. And it's just tough because you can't get those moments back. You can't get those moments back. So you just gotta, and people, you know, you just gotta manage your time better. Fucking wake up earlier, bitch. You know what I mean? Get your shit done. Whether you got to wake up earlier, you got to do something somewhere. Everybody's got the same amount of time as you do. Everybody's got the same opportunity that you do. So it's like, whatever you got to do to make it work for you and your family, make it work. But I know that's best for me.
Yeah, well, I love that you're setting that example and you're a resource for men in that industry and in the field for when they come to that, you know, that crossroads. Cause I'm sure, you know, there's like the balance of like building up to provide this foundation for your family. But then at the same time, it's like, when is it enough? So I love that you really touched on that and shed light on that. So our meeting is about to end, so I just want to say thank you so much for joining me on my first collab. And
yes.
So yeah, anyone who's listening that wants to follow you, do you want to shout out any of your like social media or anything like that?
Totally. So I'll start with, I have a book available on Amazon called Poppy Seed Poetry. So that's available on Amazon. It's a compilation of art. You can get that now. My podcast is launching soon called Against Medical Advice Podcast. It is on YouTube on August 31st. We'll be launching like for real International Overdose Awareness Day. So that's like a big thing we're dropping. Instagram, Jimi Diamond is my personal. Attainable Dreams is another one, and Poppy Seed Poetry on there. YouTube, Jimi Diamond, if you want to see my stand-up comedy and some of my music. just fun stuff that I like to do. Facebook, Jimi Diamond, Attainable Dreams, Poppy Seed Poetry. If you go to Teespring, I sell t-shirts with the slogan "No Addict Left Behind" on them. So those are available on Teespring as well. And yeah, I think that's it. I think that's pretty much all the tags and stuff that I want to drop.
Awesome. Well, hold on. I'm gonna thank you so much. And